Inspiration Nation, hello, Lee Kemp here again, back for another week with both Ryan and Joe. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Yeah, always good to be here on the podcast. I love it. Feel inspired actually, because I think it's, we're episode, what is this, episode 19 now?
19, I think now.
I mean, like, it's flying by, isn't it? They're absolutely flying. Even when the other day I was on a call to my sister, I know I thought interrupted people, but I was on the call to my sister. She went, what? Already, like, when I spoke to her last time, it was like, 18 episodes.
It goes quickly.
It's ridiculous. It's going, what's going on? So yeah, it's flying by, and that's why it's time so critical. Anyway, carry on. Sorry, Lee, I've interrupted you.
You've ruined the whole start of the show now, Joe. Right, we're done now, folks. We're finished.
Oh, right. That's the shortest podcast in history.
So leave us a review. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's got a slightly different thing for YouTube, so I will get to it.
Okay. Okay.
I did forget about it, I'll be honest. Ryan, what is YouTube? Because I did forget.
Inspiration Nation podcast.
There we go. Joe is at JN Coaching Tech across all platforms. Yep. We collectively are Listen to IN. That is at Listen TOIN. We'd love to hear your feedback, love your comments. Obviously, the show and Joe himself putting out videos every day. We'd love to hear what people think. A lot of comments already every day, but the more the merrier. And whatever service you're listening to this on, if you are watching on YouTube, give us a like, leave us a review, leave us some comments, and don't forget to subscribe as well.
Love it. Yeah, don't forget, obviously, newsletter, which I do.
Yeah. And
the blog, and I don't know if you mentioned the blog, I can't remember, but just go over to that stuff as well. I'd love to hear what you think about them, because, again, it adds to the context. So what I tend to do with the blogs now is when we do an episode, I tend to write about that in a bit more, in a different context, I suppose. So we've had time to reflect, and I think that's... And again, that'd be nice to have your view on that as well, and see what you think. Adds a bit more context and stuff like that. Yep,
yes,
perfect.
Absolutely. So, what are we talking about this week then, Joe?
So, we are talking about the art of listening this week.
So you're going to start with this, aren't you?
What are we going to start with?
You're going to call me out.
Oh my God, yes, it's brilliant. So I came into this room, right, and I said, hey Lee, what do you think? And there's Lee on his phone. Ryan, can you back me up?
Yeah. I don't like to single people out, but yeah.
Yeah, he was on his phone. Did you listen, Lee? Did you feel
every single word, Joe? All went in perfectly. I was multitasking like a boss.
Right. What did we say about multitasking a few episodes
Yeah, I've got
ago?
no idea what you said.
You can't remember? If we're doing other things, we are...
Oh, no. I remember that. I had no idea what you were saying earlier when I was looking at my phone.
Oh. Okay. Maybe I'm not listening right. And this is what I mean about the art of listening. So this is what we're going to talk about. So this skill, people underrate the skill. I'm a good listener. But really, in reality, it's one of the hard... everyone can listen, we've got ears, yeah? But it's one of the hardest skill to master, to stay present and listen. So I've got a little bit of definition that I like to do when I can. So a definition is hearing what others are saying and trying to understand what it means. The act of listening involves complex, effective, cognitive and behavioural processes. So that's a bit of a mouthful.
That was the biggest definition
I know, but it's good, isn't it? Because it covers a lot of ground. For me, I love effective cognitive and behavioural process. You're trying to calmly listen, but also you're trying to sort of suspend what you're thinking about and trying to really listen to the other person. So I really love that definition, because listening, I feel, even when I'm coaching and training, you see people switch off. You see them, I've delivered training and I've had people come in and they brought in their laptops. So I'm doing the training, they're all awake. I can't do clicking noise, I can't read it on the computer. And their bandwidth, as we talked about before, is so limited. And I reckon and some of these people have been, in my view, pretty high level people. And I was really shocked about the level of awareness about listening, because if you go into a room with a laptop, what sort of message, I know what message you're sending to me, what sort of message would you think that's sending out? If you go into a room with a laptop into a training session or a coaching session and then you're tapping away?
Well, I think it's two things. One, when they're tapping away is they're not listening, but I think coming into the room with that in the first place is almost telling you, I ain't got time for this, I don't want to be here, I'm not actually in the room.
Yeah, but I get silence and I'm here to listen. I get the total opposite. So it's really important that when we are going to listen, because the things that we are going to, and okay, so some people have had training with her, but there might be something that they take away that they may not have heard before, this conversation that might be really valuable, and you miss it. So the art of listening really is that. It's about making sure we limit distractions. So I'm going to put this out there. So how good do you think you are at listening, guys? What was your listening? If I was going to say to you, listening on a scale of 1 to 10, or 0 to 10, 0 being absolutely no good at all, or 10 being absolutely the best listener in the world, like where would you put yourself on a scale?
I'm going to defer to my learned colleague.
I think you're waiting for a gauge. Actually.
7.
Can I give you 2 answers?
Yeah, I'm putting rules around it.
Because I think I can be very good.
Okay.
High on the scale, 8 or a 9.
Okay.
But I also think I can also be very bad. And
I
it's
like how he had to one-up me there with the 8 or 9.
I think I can be.
He's waiting. What is he? He's waiting for you to put yourself on the scale. Then he was going to wade in with his score.
Yeah, but on my other answer, I'm like a 2 or a 3,
Yeah.
so it balances out somewhere in the middle. And it's like watching TV.
Mm.
So these things are a nightmare. So I can be watching TV, paying attention, knowing what's going on, and then before I know it, subconsciously, I'm like, oh crap, I don't even know what happened. And before I've even realised it, my phone's in my hand, I'm reading something, I've got no idea what's going on, and I'm putting the phone down, I'm rewinding it and saying, right, I'm going to pay attention now, and within 5 minutes, to the point that I will, and we're here, we can do it, coffee table there, I will sit about here, I will push my phone to the other side of the table to stop me picking it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think there's almost a distraction culture we live in now.
Mm.
So I can be very good, and I would say maybe a 7. But I can also be awful when I go into that distraction mode. And once you're distracted, you're just not. I'm not even going to say it's a 2 or a 1. I'm just not listening.
Yeah. And it does. And I think this is where we can fall down, because we can say we're good at listening, and I think you have to prepare to be good at listening. I think there's a lot of preparation that goes into listening. We'll talk about this anyway. So. I've drifted off, and I do, and I like, and so if I was going to put myself on a scale, I'd say 6 or 7, but it just depends. Again, like
it was 6 until you said 7. Now it's 6 or 7.
So,
on the base number.
So
I turn this round.
So it's a difficult one though, because you feel you can be listening, but then you can suddenly you just zone out for whatever reason. So when I'm coaching, I have to be on it. I have to get rid of all the distractions I can. And my concentration is solely on that person, and it's emptying my mind about being with that person 100%. And we're going to talk about a little bit about each of these things. So, because I think there's still tons of scope. I think there's so much scope to improve your listening, like 100%. So I think if you're conscious about developing listening, I think if you'll say you're 8 or 9, I think you can go even better than that. I think I don't think anyone can be a 10. Like, ever. I don't think anyone in the world, not even like if you've got the best coach in the world like Andy Robbins, I think they're brilliant, but I still think everyone can be better at listening all the time. I think there's different levels, like level all the time. I don't think there's not
a cap on it.
There's not a cap, yes. There's always those different levels, always nuances as human beings, because we're all complex beings, and how do we read that, how do we take it in, and that's what I'm talking about really.
I'm going to turn my listening up to 11, Joe.
Are you? Okay, so if I give you a little sheet, you up to 10, you go, hang on, put a little book box and put 11. Brilliant, I love that. It's so funny because, anyway, I don't want to talk about it, I'm going to totally get off track, and I don't want to get off track. Okay, so I did a bit of research on this before I put this together. So I went over to the Harvard Business Review article that I looked at, and I'll give you the names of these people so you can go off and research it. I think there's six levels of listening. And I think they're really good, so we'll talk each of them through and see what you think. And what I'll do is we go through, so I want you to give me examples of when maybe you've been talking and someone has been listening to you, how did that feel, and things like that. So one is, the listener's got to create a safe environment which difficult and complex or emotional issues can be discussed. Okay, so when I talk about coaching, or we were talking earlier about, is someone coachable and things like that, is creating a space where you can totally focus on that person. So I've had situations where someone's had some real difficulties. So I've not done it in my training room. I've taken people out, or I've arranged another time so we have absolute space between them and us where we can have that safe environment and create that. This is a space for you now. This is just for you, and it's a safe space. And I'll so this is a space you can tell me anything. This is where it's going. This is where you can be totally you. And I need, if we're going to go through this, you need to be totally honest with where you are. And so those emotional issues that are stopping people getting to where they want to be can be discussed and listened to. Because I truly believe when people want to achieve things and there's barriers, they're going to have to be safe enough to articulate to me what those barriers are. Even if they're not aware of them, they're going to start to talk to me, and I'm going to start to pick up things that they may not be aware of that they're talking about, but I will pick them up and feed them back. And so creating that safe emotional space for them is really critical. So that's step number one. What's your view on that in terms of, have you had any experience of that? Have you not? If you haven't experienced, what would you do?
I think, it's something I've become more conscious of recently. I think we might have spoke about it, and you talked to me a lot about neutral spaces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay,
yeah. And not just this, I think there's a big risk that going somewhere private with someone where you're in control of the situation. So it's a conversation that you don't want people listening in on, or that the person you're talking to wouldn't want people listening in on. But almost when you set that space, you're almost creating the negative in the first place, at the risk of not so much on the listening, but people not wanting to open up on you. So I try, and it's difficult, you've got to work with practicalities, but try and make sure that things are as comfortable as possible for people, and especially when you need to have real conversations, you want to know what someone thinks about something or how they feel about stuff, and it's about not just where it is, but how I am, body language, stuff like that. Even little things someone picked up for me is like laptops. If I go in and I sit up and I put a screen in front, I'm building a barrier straight away, and I try and not do that, and do the things where you're not having your arms crossed, all those sort of things, just to consciously try and make people feel relaxed. I don't think I always have done that, and I don't think I still always do that. I think I've been on the other side of it where I felt very intimidated by where I am.
Can you give me an example of that? Just not like specifics, but like just a sort of gauge, just to say how you...
Again, when you're kind of taken into a room for a telling off, if you like, and it's the naughty space, and people will probably subconsciously become very authoritative in how they are with things, and it can be difficult to express yourself openly when that's the situation.
Mm-hmm. I've experienced the same sort of thing. So, they've given me, this take me to a room, give me feedback, but literally it was just to tell me. There was no listening involved. There was no, I don't want to hear any of your answers. I'm just going to tell you this.
You just need to hear what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've had those.
Yeah, and those are the things that I think, that's where people who do that and are not prepared to listen to the piece that needs to come in. So if you have a directive that you're going to give, I think if you're going to grow, you're going to know why they've done that, and why you're telling them. You need to have their response to how they feel about that. And I had a situation where I was told, don't ask them how they're feeling. Don't ask them how they're feeling. Right? I had this from a person who was very experienced in their role, and my roles are, okay? And I was so shocked by that. And I know the reason. One of the reasons is because they're afraid for them to hear the real answers.
Yeah.
So if you ever come to one of my trainings or a coaching session, I'll ask you, how do you feel about that piece of coaching? Because if you ask someone how they feel, they're not telling you intellectually. Of course, they're going to describe to you. What they're going to tell you is, what does this feel like to you? And a lot of our thoughts, right? Your body's telling your brain how you're feeling, and that's going to be articulated. So when I do that, that's why I ask, because one, I need people to be totally honest with me, and I want them to be honest, because if they're honest, then I can help them. If you're not honest, or you're struggling with that, I can help you get to that place, so I can help you. So I experience that. What about you, Ryan? Anything happen with you that you can think about, or have not been listened to, or you've had the stuff delivered similar to Lee? What's the...
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a specific example, really. I think everyone's kind of been in that position where they feel that they've not been listened to, very well. I mean, it's hard to look at it from a professional picture, isn't it? I mean, that's where most of us spend our time getting feedback, would be in a professional kind of capacity. I think I've been in situations where maybe I haven't listened very well to feedback, or instead of somebody doing it to me, I've been the poor listener.
It's always, so can you give a bit of context around that?
So I got a bit of feedback on some work I'd done, and I felt quite strongly about the work I had done and why I thought it was the right decision. And I didn't listen well enough to the reasons why it could have been better and why it should have been better, because I thought that what I'd done was enough. I thought that what I'd done was a good enough kind of representation of what I should have done. And I wasn't kind of rejecting what they were saying, I just didn't want to hear what they were saying, because I knew when they told me, I knew that what they said was right, but because I was very adamant that what I'd done I thought was good enough, I didn't want to maybe accept defeat.
Okay.
So I kind of just didn't want to listen to it, so I didn't listen to it.
So do you think, I know we talked about ecosystems, and I love that and coining that phrase, this is an Inspiration Nation original, I hope. I don't know if it's out there, but do you think, was that part of an ego piece, do you think, in there somewhat?
Maybe. I think it probably would have been. Thinking back on what it was and the context behind it specifically, yeah, it would have been. I thought that what I'd done was good enough. I was then told by my superior that it wasn't good enough, and I thought it was. They thought it wasn't. At the end of the day, they're my superior anyway, so I should have just taken it on the chin and gone, yeah, right, fair enough. But because I felt so strongly that what I'd done was right, I stuck by my gun, said that no, this is right, I've done it right. And then obviously when I thought about it, when I reflected on it afterwards, I was like, no, they're spot on. I don't know why I've even acted that way. So it was hard to kind of explain why I was that way, because I'm never usually like that. Usually if I get feedback from something, I won't like it, and nobody likes getting constructive feedback, but I would have taken it better than what I had done. So I'm not sure where it came from. I just think maybe in that specific instance I thought I'd done enough and I was happy with what I'd done, and then I was told that no, that wasn't good enough. Not in those specific words, of course, but obviously in general that it should have been better.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, and this is why I talk about now, some people struggle get in touch with feelings, right? Because sometimes you don't want to deal with them, right? And I'm a strong believer in actually a lot of the things that we do come from feelings. Like, you can't ignore it, right? It's one of the hardest things to do. Some people don't want them, don't want to get engaged with them, but it's important to know how you're feeling. And I'm a big believer, ever since like getting back on the sort of coaching train, for a while, is that it's me getting more in touch with how I'm feeling, and so that there was probably some sort of emotional response.
Yeah.
And like, if you dig down into that, you probably recognise, oh, okay, that's that, and that's what I encourage people to do. Like when I coach or train, I want people to get in touch with how they're feeling. And people say, oh, you get something that's it's a bit fluffy, but it's not, because if you think about it, you're all connected. So this is all connected together. You connect by a massive great spinal cord, which you're totally in sync. So when you have that feeling, when people get headaches, it's probably because there's some sort of stress going on, and you can feel where it is. And I think it's important that we do that. And I know, having spoken to people that I've asked, you get more in touch with how you're feeling, be expressive about how you're feeling, because when you can do that and you can express that, then I can listen to that and think, okay, I can totally almost like feel what that is.
I think there's, for you saying that point, and it's true, because you said you like to ask people how they felt about that training. I think there's a massive difference between saying, how did that go, and how do you feel about that? I think they invoke two different conversation lines. So I think 100%. You're absolutely right with that.
Yeah, because what I don't want, because almost when I say how'd it go, it's almost like, for me, it's like I want them to say,
give me validation.
Yeah, validate.
Yeah,
it's great. It's good. Like a real surface piece. And I don't want a surface piece, because I need to know where is there something in it that I need to improve. But I can understand why people don't ask that question, even as self-development professionals. People do train and get feedback. I can understand because it's scary, because it's something that it's too long to get in a conversation. But if there's something that's gone in that room, or there's an issue, for you to be effective, you need to be able to be strong enough and be brave enough to step into that and go, okay, so what is it? So I was delivering training, and I'm a bit strict on timings. I'm a bit of a stickler. I want people to be on time. It's probably a bit of my old makeup, to be honest, but I want people to be in the training ready to start and have a little bit of a pre thing going on. And I'm pretty cool. I mean, Lee's worked with me, for me at some point. You can probably say I'm pretty.
I don't know if cool is the word I'd use for you, Jane.
Right.
I'm only joking. Yes, you're absolutely right.
You know what I mean? I'm not like pedantic about it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much. I let things go, but if I see a recurring pattern, I will address it. And I had some people come in, and like 2 or 3 times they didn't turn up, and they were late.